Hi, this is Kevin Deal. Today we're going to take a look at the PrimaLuna DiaLogue Premium HP Power Amplifier. I was thinking about the DiaLogue Premium Power Amp and what Art Dudley said when he reviewed it for the pages of Stereophile magazine. He said, "I tried to find a single fault with it, and I failed." He also went on to say that it was among one of the top 4 or 5 amplifiers he's ever reviewed. Now that's a big deal because the DiaLogue Premium is only $31.99. We don't make a big deal about power. A 36-watt DiaLogue Premium is going to rock your world, and it's going to smoke 100-watt amplifiers from other manufacturers. But we know that some people feel that they need more power. Now, it could have been done very easily by just pushing the power tubes like everybody else does. Power from tubes is a function of how hard you run them. Plate voltage, how hard you bias them. Everyone plays by the same rules, but PrimaLuna likes to run the tubes at the very minimum output per tube without going into crossover distortion. What does that mean? Extended tube life. So instead of doing it the cheap way by just running the tubes harder, they did it the best way, adding 4 more power tubes, a larger power transformer, and a second adaptive auto bias board. The result? An amplifier with 70 watts per channel in ultralinear, all the way up to 96 watts with KT150s. And if you flip a switch on the back, you can buy a second one, monoblock it, and get all the way up to 192 watts of power. Now, speaking of tubes, this amplifier will run any tube that you want. EL34s, KT88s, KT120s, and KT150s. There's a switch on the side that allows you to go to different tube types. You can change how the amplifier operates. Right now, this amp is running in ultralinear because it's got a red light on the front. I push the button on the remote. It goes to green. Now we're running in triode. Ultralinear means just that, ultralinear, the flattest response. Triode is a warmer presentation. You've heard of that sound before. Triode amps, 300B amps. That means that you're running 3 elements of the tube. It means that if you have any recordings that are aggressive recordings, let's talk about old Rolling Stones or old 70s vintage David Bowie, and you stopped listening to them because they were getting on your nerves, run it in triode, all that aggression goes away. It becomes buttery. You can just settle into the music, and it's a tremendous amount of fun. It has 6 12AU7s in the front. I just looked at another reference amplifier from another manufacturer, and it has only 2 front-end tubes. That means 1 tube per channel. Half the tube is the preamp. The other half of the tube is the driver tube to drive the power tubes. PrimaLuna does it a better way. 3 tubes per channel. This is the preamp tube, wired in parallel. There's 2 halves to the tube. Swings more, well, first of all, when the tubes get really old, if one triode drops off prematurely, you're never going to hear it. The second reason we use more tubes is this. Having 4 driver tubes will swing more voltage. We're talking about increased dynamics. So all the PrimaLuna DiaLogue class power amps are going to have 6 12AU7s in the front end. The beauty of 12AU7s is this. There's more of them being made around the world than any other part. So if you want to fine-tune the color of this amp, you don't need to change these power tubes. EL34s are heaven. Don't change it. You can change the color of this amp by just changing 2 12AU7s. If you want it darker, put in a pair of JJs. If you want more sparkle, put in a pair of Gold Lions. Also, in the world of new old stock vintage tubes, there are more 12AU7s available today than any other part. There's a lot of information about that on the PrimaLuna website. That's how you get perfect synergy in your system. You don't do it with $1,000 tweaks. You do it with just a couple of tubes to make the puzzle piece fit perfectly. Let's look inside and see what we're talking about. This is where the magic happens. This amplifier could sell for half the price it sells for if they chose to use printed circuit boards. No other amp is going to sound like a PrimaLuna because they don't have point-to-point wiring. Printed circuit boards are not your friend, because if you take a power tube socket, like right here, and mount it to a PCB, when those sockets get hot and you wiggle the tubes, those boards are going to break. They are going to break at some point. Then you're going to put jumpers across, or they're going to melt. You're going to have all kinds of problems. Point-to-point wiring is very, very labor intensive, but it sounds better, and it's built to last forever. On the sides, we have 2 adaptive auto bias boards. Adaptive auto bias is really nice because it makes your life very, very easy. It takes care of all the maintenance. It keeps all the tubes biased perfectly. But more important is this: it cuts distortion and it improves the sound quality in a huge way, especially when tubes get older. Tubes don't age evenly. So, if one of these ZL34s gets soft, adaptive auto bias is going to see that, and it's going to work as hard as it can to make sure that you're not aware of it. The other thing about adaptive auto bias is this: it protects the amplifier. You'll hear about people talking about, oh, I had a tube short. Why did it short? Because the amplifier ran the tubes too hard, and then it didn't have any protection. Takes out a cathode resistor or a screen resistor, you get annoyed, you go to the UPS counter, game over. In a PrimaLuna, that just doesn't happen. There's a relay on the adaptive auto bias board. At the first sign of trouble, that relay opens up, pop, and it cuts the B plus off, puts the amplifier into protection. There's a little red LED in front of the bad tube. You simply turn the amplifier off, replace the tube. Doesn't even have to be the right tube. It could be all EL34s, and you could plug in a KT88. Turn the amplifier back on, and you go. This is also where the magic of the triode and ultralinear switching is housed, is on the adaptive auto bias board. So this is a highly developed circuit. I know a couple other manufacturers have talked about they just came out with an auto bias circuit. PrimaLuna came out with it 14 years ago, and they've developed it and improved it over time. They are way ahead of the curve. Now, let's talk about transformers. The output transformers are custom wound. That's why a 36-watt PrimaLuna will have more base slam than 100-watt amps from other manufacturers. Output transformers are the key to the sound of a tube amp. If you don't have bandwidth, you don't have bass. Let's talk about the power transformer. It is a massive, potted toroidal transformer. Why? Toroidal transformers don't radiate EMI out of the core of the donut. They don't pollute the circuits of the amplifier. It drops the noise floor. Then why doesn't everybody use them? Because they cost too much. Toroids cost 5 or even 10 times more than a regular C-core transformer. They're expensive. Manufacturers cut costs on transformers. That's why you're going to see $10,000 amplifiers that weigh 40 pounds. It's unbelievable. This amplifier weighs 67 pounds. This power transformer is not only a toroid, it's a potted toroid. That means it's sealed in a non-microphonic epoxy into a can that protects the transformer and keeps it from making acoustic noise. Again, we're talking about dropping the noise floor. Now, to make sure that that transformer is as quiet as possible, PrimaLuna invented the AC offset killer. Regardless of the condition of the electricity in your home, this transformer is going to stay inert, and it's going to be as quiet as a church mouse. This is an exclusive to PrimaLuna. You're not going to find that anywhere. Looking at the signal path, you're going to see a plethora of pink resistors. The ones in the signal path are custom-made TACMAN resistors from Japan. TACMAN resistors are known for their low noise and linearity. It's an expensive part that other companies dare not use. I want to get back to the output transformers. These output transformers have 3 different speaker taps: a 4-ohm tap, an 8-ohm tap, and a 16-ohm tap. So you get a perfect marriage between the HP amplifier and your speakers. If you were to switch this amplifier to mono operation, it becomes a 2-ohm tap, a 4-ohm tap, and an 8-ohm tap. Perfect for ribbon speakers and electrostats. This amplifier has a low output impedance. You can run it into very difficult speakers, very difficult loads. It won't flinch. Look, it's filled with self-protection features. It has output transformer protection, things that you will not dream of seeing in any other product. Be pragmatic. Go to Google. Use Google Images to look inside what other companies offer you, and then compare it to a PrimaLuna. Compare it for the sound. Compare it for the build quality. Buy something that is built to last a lifetime. The DiaLogue Premium HP.